Chapter 1. The dinner table and the bowl of greens no one thanked for. The rice cooker clicked off at exactly 6:01 p.m., letting out a soft hiss of steam that clouded the kitchen window. Tran set the ceramic bowl of stir-fried mustard greens onto the table, careful not to let the chopsticks clatter. She adjusted the placemats out of habit, though no one ever seemed to notice when she did. The house smelled like garlic and soy, familiar and strangely comforting, but the tension was already there, lingering like the scent of fish sauce long after the lid had been closed. From the living room, her mother-in-law's voice floated in, muffled by the TV. "Michael, don't forget to wash your hands before dinner." Anna took a deep breath. She was trying today, she really was. She had rushed home from work, skipped her post-office coffee, chopped vegetables, cooked the rice, made 2 dishes plus soup. She even reheated Lucy's favorite frozen dumplings because her daughter wouldn't touch bitter greens. Helen entered the kitchen right as Anna was laying out the last pair of chopsticks. She carried a folded kitchen towel over her arm like a small badge of order. "You added sugar to the soup, right?" Helen asked, not quite looking at her. Anna kept her voice even. "Just a pinch. Not too much." Helen hummed. Not disapproving. Not approving. Just evaluating. Michael appeared next, Lucy trailing behind him in her pink dinosaur pajamas. She ran to Anna with a giggle, arms outstretched. "Mommy, I made a tower with blocks." Anna scooped her up, kissing the side of her head. "That's wonderful, sweet pea. You can show me after dinner, okay?" They sat down 4 chairs, 3 generations, at the modest wooden table Helen had kept for over a decade. The soup was ladled. Rice was scooped. Lucy poked at her dumplings with a plastic fork. And then it began. Not a fight. Not a disagreement. Just the usual ritual of words unsaid and gestures misread. Helen took a piece of tofu from the plate and dropped it into Lucy's bowl, then paused at the greens. Her lips tightened slightly. "This looks a little too oily," she commented, adjusting her napkin. Anna forced a smile. "I tried sesame oil instead of olive oil this time." Helen gave a polite nod, then turned to Michael. "You remember when Ba used to cook? His greens were always light, not greasy like they do in restaurants now." Michael laughed softly, not catching the implication. Or choosing not to. "Yeah, he had that secret soy sauce mix." Anna said nothing. She knew the moment had passed. She would not be thanked for cooking. Again. She ate her rice, listening as Helen asked Lucy how preschool was. As Michael added sriracha to his tofu. As the conversation orbited around her but never quite touched her. She was used to it. And yet, she looked down at the bowl of greens, the one no one had touched. She had bought those fresh this morning, waking early to stop by the Vietnamese market before work. The woman at the counter had even complimented her on her Vietnamese. "You speak Vietnamese so well." Anna had smiled then. It had felt like a rare win. One that didn't follow her home. Helen stood up mid-meal to grab a tissue. As she passed behind Anna, she spoke, not harshly, but with that pointed tone she often used when she was just being honest. "Next time, maybe don't stir the greens so much. They lose their color when overcooked." Anna froze for a half-second. Michael didn't look up. Lucy asked for more soy sauce. "And Anna?" She smiled, nodding. "I'll remember that." But inside, she felt like the bowl, carefully prepared, ignored, and now slowly wilting in the center of the table. That night, after the dishes were washed and Lucy was asleep, Anna stood by the kitchen sink, staring at the sponge in her hand. Her phone buzzed from the counter. A text from a friend. "Still on for Saturday brunch?" She stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered. She thought about saying no. She thought about staying home. About cooking more meals. About existing in a space where everything was technically fine, but nothing felt like hers. Then she typed, "Yes. I need out of this house for a bit." And for the first time that day, she felt like she had chosen something, even if it was just brunch. Chapter 2. How to be grateful without being heard. The next morning, Anna stood by the doorway of the kitchen, sipping her coffee in silence. She always woke up before everyone else. Not because she needed to, but because she wanted a few precious moments alone before the day turned into quiet performance, playing the good wife, the respectful daughter-in-law, the mother who never snapped. The kitchen clock ticked louder when the house was still. She could hear the muffled creak of Helen's slippers upstairs, the occasional thump of Lucy turning over in her sleep. The sun filtered in through the lace curtains Helen had insisted on keeping for that cozy feeling, even though they barely matched the modern appliances Anna had helped Michael install last year. At 7:10 a.m., Helen entered the kitchen in her housecoat, adjusting her bun. Anna smiled softly. "Morning, Mom." Helen gave a polite nod, walked past her to the pantry, pulled out the rice cooker, and began measuring rice without saying a word. "No, good morning. No, did you sleep well?" Anna had stopped expecting that kind of warmth. She was used to Helen's brand of love, practical, wordless, and barbed. Still, something inside her stirred. She took a slow breath and asked gently, "Would you like me to prep anything for breakfast?" Helen glanced at her. "No need. I already defrosted the pork." Pause, then added, "Besides, you have work, right? You don't want to be late." Anna didn't correct her. She didn't say she'd already sent the morning emails from her phone while brewing coffee. She didn't explain that she had time, that she wanted to help, because she knew the real message was, "You do your thing. I'll do mine. Don't get in the way." So she nodded. "Okay." She returned to her mug and sat by the dining table. As Helen moved around the kitchen rinsing rice, chopping scallions, opening drawers, the clatter of her motions filled the room, but not the silence. And then, without warning, Helen asked, "Does Lucy still wake up at night?" It wasn't exactly warm, but it was interest. Anna blinked. "Not as often. Maybe once or twice a week. Nightmares sometimes." Helen nodded slowly, still chopping. "You shouldn't let her nap too long in the afternoon. Makes her nights worse." Anna hesitated. "She only naps for an hour. Max." Helen didn't reply, just added, quieter, "You were the same when you were her age. Your mom used to call me all the time, didn't know what to do." Anna's heart tugged. She did. Helen gave the faintest smile. She was a good woman. A little soft. But she loved you. It was the first time Helen had mentioned her mother in months, maybe years. Anna held her cup tighter. Her mother had passed 5 years ago, right before Lucy was born. And in many ways, it felt like the last time someone in her life had seen her as a daughter, not just a role. She wanted to say something tender. But the moment passed. Helen wiped the counter. "Breakfast in 30. You'll eat before you leave." Anna nodded. "Yes, thank you." The thank you hung there like a small olive branch. Helen didn't say, "You're welcome," but she nodded. And that was the closest to being heard they had reached in weeks. Later, while driving to work, Anna kept thinking about that brief exchange. It hadn't been warm. It hadn't healed anything, but it had cracked something open. And in this house, where love was hidden behind routines and rice cookers and recipes passed down without instructions, that was a start. A small one, but hers. Chapter 3. Michael thinks everyone means well. And that's the problem. The kitchen smelled like lemongrass and pork when Anna walked through the door that evening, purse still slung over her shoulder. The house was warm, almost too warm. The thermostat nudged up a little higher than she preferred, Helen's habit, no matter the season. Lucy was on the floor in the living room, surrounded by colored markers and half-crumpled drawings. Anna's heart softened. "Hi, my girl." Lucy looked up, beamed, and ran over, hugging Anna's legs. "Mommy, I made a blue tiger." Anna crouched, gathering her in her arms. That's the bravest tiger I've ever seen. Helen poked her head out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Dinner will be ready in 15. I added less salt this time. Anna smiled faintly. It was the closest thing to an olive branch Helen ever offered, a changed seasoning. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. Helen gave a small nod and disappeared back into the kitchen. Michael walked in right behind her, having just returned from work himself, button down slightly wrinkled, keys still in his hand. Hey, babe. He leaned down and kissed the top of Anna's head, then scooped Lucy into his arms with a grin. Blue tiger, huh? That's pretty fierce. Anna stood up, watching them for a beat before saying, carefully, "Can we talk for a second?" Michael looked up, sensing something in her tone. Now, just before dinner, upstairs, in their bedroom. The door closed softly behind them. Michael sat on the edge of the bed. Anna stood near the window, arms crossed, not angry, but bracing herself. I need to say something, she started. And I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to hear me. Michael nodded, slowly. Okay. She took a breath. I feel like I'm constantly balancing between keeping your mom from disapproving of me and keeping myself from disappearing in this house. He frowned. Is this about dinner last night? Anna shook her head. It's not about a meal. It's about how she talks over me, corrects me, comments on how I raise our daughter, how I cook, even how I breathe sometimes. And you always say, she means well. Michael ran a hand through his hair. I mean, doesn't she? That did it. Anna stepped back, voice still calm, but sharper now. That's the problem. You think intention excuses impact. That meaning well makes everything okay. But it doesn't feel okay to be constantly dismissed and judged in my own home. Michael looked at her, quiet now. I'm not asking you to fight with her, Anna said. I'm asking you to see me. To stop standing in the middle and start standing with me. He blinked. She continued, softer. When she criticizes me and you look away, that's not neutrality. That's abandonment. The words landed like stones dropped in still water. Michael exhaled. I didn't realize you felt that alone. That's the thing, Michael. I didn't want to make noise. I wanted to be respectful. But I'm tired of translating every hurt into silence. Silence. He stood up, walked over, gently took her hand. I hear you. She looked at him, uncertain. He added, and I'm sorry I made you carry this on your own. I'll do better. I promise. Anna didn't smile, but she didn't pull her hand away either. They went downstairs quietly. At dinner, Michael scooped rice into Anna's bowl without being asked. When Helen commented about how long Lucy watched cartoons that afternoon, he responded, gently but firmly. She needed downtime, Mom. We've all been running hard lately. Helen looked surprised, then said nothing. Anna didn't say thank you. She didn't have to, because this time, someone stood next to her. And that changed everything. Chapter 4. The room where I cried without making noise. The shower had long gone cold, but Anna stayed sitting on the tiled floor, her knees pulled into her chest. Towel draped across her shoulders like a whisper of comfort. She didn't sob. She didn't wail. She just let the tears fall, silent and steady. The way rain trickles down a window when no one is watching. There was something strange about the way pain settles into the body when it has no place to go. It coils into the shoulders, hides behind the spine, waits behind the ribs. Tonight, Anna could feel all of it pressing inward, not like a scream, but like a weight. And the worst part? She had no one to be angry at. Not really. Helen hadn't cursed her, hadn't hit her, hadn't locked her out of anything. Instead, she had clipped her down slowly in small, careful comments. That's not how I used to feed Michael. She's still not sleeping through the night? Poor thing. In Vietnam, mothers knew how to raise children without all this technology. Each word, a paper cut. Each dinner, a performance. Each day, a test she hadn't agreed to take. Upstairs, the world went on without her. Lucy was asleep. Michael was probably brushing his teeth or checking emails or adjusting his fantasy basketball roster. Helen would be watching her Vietnamese dramas with the volume slightly too loud, nodding at characters who knew how to speak their minds in a way Anna never could. Anna pressed her forehead against her knees. She wasn't even sure why tonight hit harder than the others. Maybe it was Michael's promise, sincere but new. Maybe it was Helen's silence at dinner, too sharp to be innocent. Maybe it was just the quiet loneliness that came from being the woman who lives in the house, but not quite in the family. Her phone buzzed on the counter above the sink. She stood up slowly, dried her face, and glanced at the screen. Group text, brunch girls, croissant cooking. Vanessa, still on for brunch Saturday? Can we go somewhere with mimosas and no toddlers? Anna stared at it. For a second, she hesitated. Then, without overthinking, she typed, "Yes, I'll be there. I need it." And that single sentence, honest, unfiltered, unapologetic, felt like reclaiming something. She changed into a loose t-shirt, crawled into bed next to Michael, who was already half asleep. He turned slightly, wrapped an arm around her waist, and mumbled, "You okay?" Anna rested her head on the pillow. "I will be." She wasn't lying. It wouldn't happen overnight. But tonight, she let herself cry without hiding. And that, in this house where everything was about being polite and productive and perfect, felt like a quiet revolution. Chapter 5. The night Helen told me she was just trying to help. The smell of ginger and chicken filled the kitchen, Helen's comfort dish, the one she made when someone in the house was sick, stressed, or otherwise out of sorts. Tonight, it wasn't for anyone in particular, but Anna had a feeling it was for her. She stood at the counter drying dishes while Helen stirred the pot with practiced rhythm. Michael was upstairs putting Lucy to bed. The house was calm in that particular way it always was when tension had been swept under the rug, but not yet addressed. Helen broke the silence first. "Michael tells me you've been feeling overwhelmed." Anna's spine stiffened. "So that's how we're starting this." She turned, placing the dry bowl gently into the cabinet. "I've just had a lot on my plate lately." Helen stirred. "We all do." Silence again. Then Helen added, "I know sometimes you think I'm being hard on you, but I'm just trying to help." There it was. The sentence that had haunted Anna more than anything else. "I'm just trying to help." She turned slowly, meeting Helen's eyes. "Can I ask you something?" Helen looked up. Anna chose her words carefully, not sharp, but steady. "Do you think helping someone means correcting them every time they do something differently than you would?" Helen frowned. "I only say what I say because I've been through it. I raised a child. I took care of a family. I want things to be easier for you." Anna nodded slowly. "I believe that. But it doesn't feel easier. It feels like I'm being watched, judged." Helen opened her mouth, but Anna continued. "When you tell me my food is too oily, or that Lucy watches too many cartoons, or that I'm not raising her the right way, it doesn't help me. It makes me feel like I'm failing. Like I'll never be good enough for this house." Helen looked stunned. Not angry. Just taken aback. As if the reality of her words had never been mirrored back before. She turned off the stove, the soup now gently bubbling behind her, and sat down at the table. Anna sat, too. The air between them buzzed with something new, not hostility. Not even grief. Just the weight of truth finally spoken. Helen's voice was softer now. "In my time, we didn't talk about these things. You just did your part. You didn't complain. You didn't question your elders." Anna nodded. "I know, and I've tried to respect that. But I also need to be able to breathe in this house." Helen looked down at her hands, folded in her lap. "I didn't mean to make you feel small." Anna's throat tightened. She hadn't expected an apology. "Not really," she said. "You don't have to agree with everything I do. But please trust that I'm trying." That I love Lucy. That I love Michael. That I care about this family. Even when I'm quiet. Helen looked at her, really looked, for the first time in a long time. You're not quiet. Anna blinked. You're just careful. A pause. Then. I see that now. They didn't hug. There was no dramatic music, no tears spilled across the kitchen floor. But when they served the soup, Helen handed Anna the bowl first. And when Anna took a sip, she said softly, "It's perfect." Helen didn't say anything, but the corners of her mouth lifted just enough. And in a house built on routine, where women had once circled each other like planets with overlapping orbits, tonight they sat at the same table. Not as enemies. Not even as family yet. But as two women who had stopped pretending long enough to start understanding. Chapter 6. Lucy drew a picture that changed everything. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Anna found it. She was sorting through the pile of colored paper and crayon scraps that Lucy had left scattered across the coffee table. The living room still smelled faintly of pancakes and maple syrup, Michael's weekend specialty, and Helen was out tending her garden in the small backyard. Anna picked up a sheet of sky blue construction paper. At first, she didn't notice anything unusual. Just stick figures as always. But then she looked closer. There were 3 people, drawn with little arms and legs, and one smaller figure in the middle, holding both their hands. In Lucy's uneven handwriting, scrawled above the figures, "This is me and Mommy and Daddy. Grandma is outside." Anna stared. She looked again. Helen wasn't in the picture, at least not with them. She was drawn in the far right corner, behind a small rectangle labeled window. Anna's heart squeezed, because it wasn't about exclusion. It was how Lucy saw the emotional geography of their home. 3 inside, 1 outside, a gentle, but honest rendering of how presence wasn't the same as connection. Anna traced her finger over the crayon lines. She knew children were observant, but she hadn't realized how much Lucy was picking up, how clearly she saw the silences, the side glances, the space between words at dinner. She turned the page over and wrote the date on the back in small print. She didn't want to forget this moment. Later that day, when Helen came in from the yard, Anna showed her the picture. She didn't frame it with commentary. She didn't soften the impact. She just handed it over. Helen took it wordlessly. Her eyes scanned the page and then stopped. She blinked once, then again. Anna saw it in her face, that quiet sting, that recognition. The realization that being in the same house didn't mean being in someone's world. She didn't mean anything by it, Anna offered. Gently. Helen nodded, still looking at the paper. No. But she's honest. A beat of silence passed. Then Helen looked up. Her voice was quieter than usual. I didn't know she saw me that way. Anna exhaled. She's still young. There's still time to change that. Helen looked at the drawing again. Then she folded it carefully with both hands and said, "I'll help her with her art tomorrow. If that's okay." Anna nodded. And, just like that, something shifted. Not everything, but enough. That night, when Lucy fell asleep, the drawing remained on the fridge, slightly tilted, held up by a magnet in the shape of a sunflower. 3 inside, 1 outside. But soon, maybe, they'd all be in the same room. Together. Chapter 7. The day Michael finally said the words I needed to hear. It was almost midnight. Anna was in bed, the lamp on her nightstand casting a soft amber glow across the room. She sat cross-legged under the blanket, flipping through an old journal she hadn't touched in months, pages filled with half-finished thoughts, reminders to breathe, and raw entries from the early days of new motherhood. She heard the creak of the stairs, then the soft push of the bedroom door. Michael walked in, looking tired in the way only fathers who juggle work, family, and emotional diplomacy do. He didn't say anything at first. He just slid into bed beside her and lay on his back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Anna closed her journal. You okay? Michael nodded, then shook his head a little. I've been thinking about everything. She turned slightly toward him. He looked over, his face open in a way it hadn't been in a long time. I didn't realize how much I let you down by staying neutral. Anna didn't respond right away. She wanted him to keep going. He did. I thought if I just stayed quiet, if I didn't add fuel to the fire, things would balance out. But I see it now, me not choosing a side was me choosing comfort over courage. Anna swallowed. He reached for her hand. You've been walking on eggshells in a house that's supposed to be yours. You've been adjusting, compromising, biting your tongue, and I just let you. She felt her chest tighten, not from pain, but from the fragile surprise of being understood. I know Mom is trying, and I know you are too. But it shouldn't just be your job to bridge the gap. That's not fair. Anna finally spoke, voice quiet. I wasn't asking you to take sides. I just needed you to see me. To say something when I was being cornered in my own kitchen. To notice when I was shrinking. Michael nodded. I see it now. A pause. Then, softly. I'm proud of you. Anna blinked. She hadn't expected that. Michael continued. For how you're raising Lucy. For how you're holding space for a woman who doesn't know how to say she's sorry. For still showing up every day, even when no one claps for it. She didn't realize she was crying until he wiped a tear from her cheek. Not because he was fixing anything, not because things were perfect now, but because he had finally said the one thing she hadn't known how to ask for. I see you. They lay there in silence for a while, no TV, no distractions. No tension to outrun. And for the first time in a long time, Anna didn't feel like she was navigating the storm alone. Someone was beside her. Not as a bystander, but as a partner. And that changed everything. Chapter 8. Helen's letter, that she never meant to leave out. It was tucked between a stack of insurance documents and old bank statements in the kitchen drawer, the one Helen called her important papers drawer, but which mostly held expired coupons and things she didn't know where else to put. Anna hadn't meant to find it. She was simply looking for the warranty form for the rice cooker. Helen had asked her to print it out earlier that week, but then promptly forgot where she'd put it. So Anna, ever the problem solver, had gone searching. She found the warranty, eventually. But she also found a folded letter, neatly pressed inside a plain white envelope, with no stamp, no address. Just one word in delicate, slightly shaky handwriting. Anna. Anna froze. She glanced toward the hallway, the sound of Helen's slippers softly shuffling upstairs, humming some old Vietnamese melody under her breath. She hesitated. Then slowly, she unfolded the paper. Anna. I know I'm not easy. I was never taught how to say things softly. I was taught to work hard, to be strong, and to keep going. I survived more than I processed. When you married Michael, I thought I had to protect him. That maybe if I stayed involved, if I gave advice, I could still be a center. I didn't realize I was pushing you out to keep my own place. You don't do things the way I do. And that scared me more than I let on. Because if your way works, then maybe mine wasn't always right. That's hard to face. When your whole life has been surviving by routine. But I see now that you love him. And you love Lucy. And that should have been enough for me. I've said things that hurt. And I know I wrapped them in help. That wasn't fair to you. You are not a guest in this home. You are family. And I am learning how to show that without making you feel small. Love. Helen. Anna read it twice. Then a third time. Her hands trembled slightly, not from anger, but from the delicate pressure of finally being named, not as a role, not as an outsider, but as someone who belonged. She sat down at the table, letter still in her lap, and let herself feel everything. Relief, sadness, soft, cautious hope. She folded the letter again, gently, respectfully, and placed it back in the envelope. But she didn't tuck it away. Instead, she left it in the center of the table. Later that night, as Helen walked into the kitchen, she paused. Her eyes met Anna's. Anna didn't say a word. She just nodded once, slow and sure. And Helen, for the first time since Anna had joined this house, didn't look like a matriarch. She looked like a mother. Trying, learning, and finally, letting go. Chapter 9. The day we cooked side by side, and it didn't feel like a test. It started with a simple question. Helen was standing at the kitchen counter early Saturday morning, sleeves rolled up, a bundle of Thai basil and green onions in front of her. Anna had just returned from the local farmer's market. Tote bag still over her shoulder, filled with produce and Lucy's forgotten stuffed bunny. Helen looked up from the cutting board, her voice even. "You want to help me make conchua?" Anna blinked. There was no critique in her tone. No undertone of, "Let me show you how it's really done." Just a quiet offer. "Sure," Anna replied, sliding her bag off her shoulder. She washed her hands, tied her hair back. They stood side by side at the counter, the kitchen bright with soft sunlight streaming through the window above the sink. The scent of tamarind paste and lemongrass began to rise in the air, familiar and grounding. For once, Helen didn't instruct. She didn't say, "Not like that," or sigh when Anna's slices weren't perfect. Instead, she passed the vegetables one by one and said, "My mom used to make this with fish heads. But I know that's not your thing." Anna smiled. "Michael told me once he only liked it when the tomatoes were still firm." Helen chuckled. "He never told me that. He just ate what was on the table." They both laughed, softly but genuinely. And just like that, the tension that had lived in this kitchen for years began to unravel. Not from a dramatic conversation. Not from a breakdown. Just from doing something together without trying to win. While the soup simmered, Helen reached up and pulled a dusty photo album from the cupboard above the microwave. She placed it on the table and opened to a page with curled corners and faded ink. "That's Michael, 6 years old. He used to cry if I didn't pack fried eggs in his lunch." Anna leaned over the table, her fingers brushing a photo of a gap-toothed little boy holding a red backpack. "He still asks for eggs when he's stressed," she said, smiling. Helen paused, hand resting gently on the edge of the album. "He married someone who sees him in ways I didn't know how to." Anna turned to her. "He has 2 women in his life who love him. That's a good thing." Helen nodded. "Took me a while to see that. I was scared, I think, that if he loved you deeply, he'd forget about me." Anna's voice softened. "He didn't forget you. He just grew." Another quiet moment. Then Helen stood and turned off the stove. "Soup's ready. You want to add the bean sprouts?" Anna nodded, stepping beside her. They moved in sync now without instruction. Without fear. 2 women, 2 generations, finally making room for each other. When Michael came downstairs, Lucy trailing behind him in mismatched socks, the house smelled of warmth, of citrus and herbs, of something mending. He stepped into the kitchen, surprised. "Wow, you 2 cook together." Helen didn't even look up from the bowls she was filling. "We did more than that." Anna smiled, because she knew what Helen meant. They hadn't just cooked a meal. They'd stopped performing and started sharing. Chapter 10. The quietest apology I've ever received. It wasn't spoken. There was no dramatic moment. No long monologue. No scene that belonged in a movie. But it happened. And Anna felt it not like lightning, but like warmth returning to fingers gone numb. It was Monday afternoon. She had come home early from work. A client meeting had been canceled last minute. The house was unusually still. Lucy was at daycare. Michael was still at the office. And the living room was filled with the soft hum of nothing. Helen was folding laundry at the table. Neat piles, sorted by size. Michael's dress shirts, Lucy's tiny socks. A row of Anna's muted blouses that always seemed to wrinkle too easily. Anna moved to grab a glass of water, quietly. Then Helen said, "I ironed the gray one for you. I know it's the one you like for your meetings." Anna froze, glass halfway to the sink. She turned, slowly. Helen didn't meet her eyes. She was still folding, but her voice was softer than usual. Almost careful. And I washed the reusable lunch bag. It had sauce on the inside. Anna didn't know what to say at first. Because this wasn't just a helpful gesture. This was something else. Not repayment. Not duty. It was her mother-in-law, reaching out the only way she knew how. Not with the words, "I'm sorry," but with, "I see what you do. I know what matters to you. And I want to make it easier, even just a little." Anna stepped closer to the table. She looked down at the gray blouse, clean, pressed, and folded just the way she liked it. She thought of all the ways people can say sorry without sound. A bowl of soup reheated without being asked. A blouse ironed and placed neatly in a pile. A space made in the fridge for almond milk even if no one else drinks it. Anna whispered, "Thank you." Helen didn't reply right away, but she paused in her folding, and then said, simply, "I'm learning." Anna blinked fast, the corners of her eyes suddenly too warm. She nodded. "Me too." That night, when Michael asked how her day had gone, she didn't tell him everything. She just smiled, shrugged gently, and said, "Your mom's getting good at apologies." He raised an eyebrow. "Really? What did she say?" Anna kissed his cheek, grinned. "Exactly what I needed." Because sometimes, the quietest apologies are the ones that echo the loudest. Chapter 11. When Lucy said, "We're all together today." It was a Saturday morning with no plan. The kind that used to make Anna anxious, all that open time just waiting to be filled with expectations or tension. But not today. Today felt different. Helen had suggested they all go to the local park, not for an event, not for a holiday, just to get outside. Michael had agreed quickly, loading Lucy's scooter into the trunk and tossing a folded blanket into the back seat. Anna had hesitated, not because she didn't want to go, but because for the first time, the invitation hadn't come with an edge. No subtext. No, we should do something as a family guilt trip. Just, let's go. It's been a while. So she said yes. The air at Lake Cunningham Park was crisp with early spring. They found a spot beneath a tree near the duck pond. Michael laid out the blanket while Helen unpacked a small cooler, mango slices, sandwiches, and a container of sticky rice with sesame salt. Lucy zipped back and forth on her scooter, her giggles echoing like little sunbursts across the grass. Anna sat beside Helen, quietly nibbling on fruit, the wind brushing strands of hair across her face. Helen passed her a napkin. No words, just a small act, and then Lucy stopped mid-scooter and ran back to them. Out of breath but beaming, she plopped down in the middle of the blanket, arms stretched wide. "We're all together today," she declared. Everyone looked at her. She wasn't saying it like it was obvious. She was saying it like it was special. Like she could feel something had shifted, even if she didn't have words for it. Michael laughed, reaching to ruffle her hair. Helen smiled. And Anna felt something catch in her throat. Because it wasn't just about the moment. It was about everything it had taken to arrive here. The silent crying in the bathroom. The quiet meal cooked without judgment. The letter found by accident. The apology folded into laundry. The space made, gently and gradually. She looked at her daughter's bright eyes, the way her joy was so full, so unguarded, so free. And for the first time in years, Anna believed it wasn't fragile. This peace, this belonging, it wasn't temporary. It had roots now. "Yes, sweetie," she whispered, pulling Lucy into her lap. "We're all together today." Helen looked at her. They held eye contact for just a beat. Not as rivals, not as competitors, but as two women who had chosen, day by day, to soften. And maybe that was enough. Maybe it had always been enough. The ducks floated across the pond, the sky wide and open above them, and for once, the silence between them didn't feel like something missing. It felt like something whole. Chapter 12. The evening I called her Mom without thinking. The moment passed in 3 seconds, but it stayed with both of them long after the dishes had been cleared. It was just after dinner, grilled salmon, sautéed green beans, and a jasmine rice Helen had added a pinch of pandan leaf to, just because she knew Lucy liked the smell. Michael was doing the dishes. Lucy was drawing in the corner with a pack of washable markers. Anna and Helen were standing in the kitchen, going through leftovers. Anna reached for a container on the top shelf. A little too far back. She tried to stretch, but couldn't quite reach. Helen, without a word, stepped forward and grabbed it easily. Anna smiled instinctively and said, "Thanks, Mom." And then the air caught. Her hand froze on the lid. Helen paused too, container still in hand. It hadn't been a calculated gesture. No one had asked for it. No one was waiting for a milestone. It had simply slipped out. Like the way you say home when you return to a place that no longer feels strange. Like the way your body relaxes before your mind catches up. Anna turned slowly. Unsure what to do, unsure if she should pretend it didn't happen. Helen looked at her. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't joke. She didn't make it small. She just softened. Then she handed the container to Anna and said, "You're welcome, daughter." One word. One open door. Later that night, while folding laundry upstairs, Anna paused on one of Helen's blouses, a simple cream top, faintly perfumed with that soft rosewater scent she always wore. She folded it carefully, with respect, with affection, with belonging. And as she placed it on top of the neat pile outside Helen's bedroom door, she whispered quietly to herself, a truth she'd only just realized she'd grown into. "I think I have a mother again. Not to replace, not to erase, but to share space with." Because sometimes love doesn't arrive like a firework. It arrives like a name spoken out loud. Unintended, but completely true. Chapter 13. The letter I wrote but never had to send. It was one of those soft, gray mornings where the sky felt like it couldn't quite decide whether to rain or not. Anna sat at the kitchen table in her robe, a warm cup of oolong tea in her hands, Lucy still sleeping upstairs. The house was quiet. Michael had already gone to the gym, and Helen was tending to her orchids in the backyard. She didn't plan to write anything, but the pen was already in her hand. And the words, they came. Not in anger, not out of pain, but as a release. She pulled a sheet of thick ivory paper from the drawer, the kind that still had a faint scent of cedar from the stationery store downtown. Then, in her own neat handwriting, she began. "Dear Helen, I used to think we were two women living on opposite ends of a bridge, both waiting for the other to cross. I kept score quietly of every time I bit my tongue. Every time I folded the laundry your way, every time I swallowed a feeling to keep the peace. And you did the same in your own way, holding your breath around my new ideas, letting go of old routines you didn't know you were still attached to. We both stayed quiet for too long. But I've come to see something else now, that in all your sharpness, there was effort. That in all my retreating, there was longing. That even in our silence, there was a desire to be understood and maybe even loved. You once told me you were still learning. I am too. We both are. And every day we choose to be kind without needing to be right. That feels like love to me. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for folding the blouse, for making soup without salt, for waiting, for letting me call you Mom and not flinching. I don't need you to read this, but I needed to write it. Love, Anna." She stared at the letter, folded it, slipped it into an envelope, wrote for Helen on the front, then placed it in the back of her journal behind a recipe Lucy had scribbled over in red crayon, because she didn't need to hand it over. Not anymore. Helen already knew. And Anna had already said all the things, not with grand gestures, but with days spent together. With the shared soup. With the call of Mom that afternoon. Helen came inside from the garden with a handful of mint in one hand and a small potted plant in the other. She set it down on the counter in front of Anna and said, casually, "It's for your windowsill. I know you like fresh herbs when you cook." Anna smiled, surprised. "Thank you." Helen didn't reply, just went back to the sink, humming to herself. And in that small, ordinary moment, Anna felt it again. The letter had already been received. Without paper, without ink, without sound. It had arrived in the living, in the trying, in the quiet, continuous work of being family. Chapter 14. The family photo that finally felt real. It was Lucy's preschool graduation. Tiny paper hats, juice boxes, a glitter banner that read "You did it," sagging slightly on one side. Anna had taken the afternoon off, dressed Lucy in a pale yellow dress with sunflowers on it, a dress Helen had found at a consignment shop and gently hand-stitched the night before to shorten the hem. Michael met them at the school. Flowers in one hand, phone in the other, already filming as Lucy walked across the little stage with a crumpled certificate and the biggest smile Anna had ever seen. When the ceremony ended, the chaos of parents taking pictures filled the room. Toddlers screaming, teachers herding kids like cats, cameras flashing. Anna stood with Lucy in her arms, eyes scanning the room for Helen. She found her near the snack table, holding a juice pouch like she wasn't sure whether she should be there or not. Their eyes met. Anna lifted her chin slightly, giving a small nod, an invitation. Helen walked over, tentative but smiling. Lucy, still holding her rolled-up paper, beamed. "Bonagwai, you came." Helen's face lit up. Anna reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "Can we take one together?" she asked. Helen blinked. "You want me in it?" Anna smiled. "Of course. You're part of this." Michael moved beside them, holding Lucy between them all. Helen hesitated for just a moment, then stepped in, not behind them, not off to the side, but shoulder to shoulder. Anna raised the phone. They smiled, and the shutter clicked. Later that night, Anna sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through the photos. Some were blurry, some off-center, but one stood out. Helen with one arm behind Lucy, Michael's hand resting on Anna's back, Lucy holding her certificate like it was gold. And everyone was laughing, not smiling for the camera. Laughing. Anna stared at the photo. It didn't look like a perfect family portrait. It looked like a moment honest enough to keep. She tapped the screen and set it as her lock screen. Helen walked into the room just then, carrying a plate of cut mangoes. She saw the phone in Anna's hand. "That one turned out nice," she said. Anna looked up, her voice warm. It felt real. Helen nodded. It was. Not a pose smile. Not a performance. Just a family, uneven, imperfect, still learning, caught in one moment of simple, shared joy. And for Anna, that photo wasn't just a keepsake. It was proof that they had all arrived. Not in one day, but together. Chapter 15. The morning I made breakfast without fear. The house was still when Anna padded downstairs, barefoot and wrapped in her soft gray sweater. The sun had only just begun to rise, casting long golden stripes across the kitchen floor. It was Saturday, but this time it wasn't rushed. There was no need to prove herself. No mental checklist of how many dishes to cook, how much sugar to add, or whether Helen would make a comment about the seasoning. It was just morning, and she felt like herself. She reached into the fridge, pulled out the carton of eggs, and cracked them into the pan with practiced ease. Whisked them gently, added a touch of milk how she liked them. Not too runny, not too firm. The kettle clicked off behind her, and she poured hot water into Helen's favorite teacup, the one with the little blue flowers and a tiny chip on the rim she refused to throw away. She arranged the plates slowly, scrambled eggs, avocado slices, buttered toast. 1 cup of tea, 1 mug of coffee. No one had asked her to cook. She just wanted to. Not out of duty. Not out of fear. But out of peace. Footsteps came down the stairs. Helen first, wrapped in her knitted cardigan, her hair still in its morning bun. She paused when she saw the table. You cooked. Anna nodded. Thought I'd start the weekend right. Helen sat down slowly, almost cautiously, like she didn't want to break the calm. She took a sip of her tea and smiled. You remembered the ginger. Anna smiled back. Of course. Then Michael came down, Lucy right behind him, still in her pajamas, hair wild and eyes sleepy. They joined the table without ceremony. Like families do when love has become a part of the furniture, not loud, not grand, just there. Lucy pointed at the eggs. Did Mommy make these? She did, Helen replied. Before Anna could speak, then added, she makes them better than I ever did. Anna froze for a second. Michael looked up. Helen didn't flinch. She just kept buttering her toast. Anna felt something gentle settle in her chest, like a knot finally coming undone after years of quiet pulling. They ate together. No sharp comments. No need to explain, to earn. To translate pain into silence. Just the four of them. Together. Not performing. Not surviving. Just living. Later that morning, after the plates were cleared and the sun had risen high, Anna stood at the sink, her hands in warm water, humming quietly. Helen walked past and paused. Then, casually, almost like a secret, she said, I'm glad you're here, Anna. No follow-up. No softening. Just that. Anna turned to her, surprised, heart full. Me too. And for the first time since she had entered this house as a new wife, a new mother, a stranger, she no longer felt like she was in someone else's home. She felt like she was home. Chapter 16. The dinner where no one picked up their chopsticks. It had been one of those days. Not catastrophic. Not dramatic. Just filled with little stings, an offhand comment, a missed text, a toddler meltdown in the car. By the time Anna stepped through the front door, she already felt frayed. She could smell dinner before she even removed her shoes. Fish sauce, garlic, stir-fried greens. Helen's cooking. Comforting, familiar, and today, oddly unwelcome. Michael's voice floated from the dining room. We're waiting for you. Anna stepped into the kitchen, lips pressed tight, and set her bag down. The table was already set. Dishes steaming. Plates laid out with perfect symmetry. But no one was talking. Not really. Michael sat at the head of the table, Lucy beside him, fidgeting with a napkin. Helen across from Anna's empty seat. Spine straight, expression unreadable. Anna sat down slowly. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was stiff, like an air bubble in a closed jar. Helen finally spoke. I moved the towels in the bathroom. They were starting to smell. I put them where they belong. Anna blinked. She knew what that meant. You didn't do it right. Again. I fixed it. Again. Michael cleared his throat, eyes darting between them. Maybe we could just eat? Lucy piped up. Can I have more soy sauce? No one moved. Anna reached for the bottle, but her hands were cold. Helen spoke again, casually. Also, Lucy had too much screen time this afternoon. I turned it off. She cried, but children shouldn't be babysat by a tablet. The air snapped. Michael stiffened. Anna put down the bottle slowly. Then she looked up. Her voice was calm, dead calm. Did you say that to make a point, or just to remind me that I'm doing everything wrong? Silence. Helen blinked, clearly not expecting that tone. I was just trying to help. Anna stared at her. No. You were trying to control. Again. Michael stepped in. Okay, let's not do this now. Anna turned to him. No, let's do it. Right now. At this table, where I've bitten my tongue for 3 years. Helen opened her mouth, but Anna continued. I am tired. I am tired of this performance. Of pretending that being corrected in front of my daughter is okay. Of being told, gently but constantly, that I am not enough. Lucy was frozen, eyes wide. Helen's face had gone pale. Anna's voice broke, not with volume, but with weight. I don't want to meddle. I just want to live in this house without being treated like I'm on probation. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then Helen whispered, more shaken than angry. You think that's what I've done? Anna didn't blink. No. That's what you've made me feel. And there's a difference. But that difference still hurts. No one picked up their chopsticks. The food went cold. Lucy quietly slid down from her chair and went to the living room, curling up with a book, sensing. Intuitively, this was not her moment to fix. Michael stood up to clear the table, but Anna remained still. And across from her, for the first time, Helen didn't defend herself. She just sat there. Eyes wet, jaw set. And maybe that was the beginning of the real conversation. Not the shouting, but the silence that finally told the truth. Chapter 17. The words she didn't say. And the ones I wrote down anyway. The next morning, the house was too quiet. Even Lucy, who usually sang to herself while brushing her teeth, padded around silently in her fuzzy slippers. Sensing the unspoken weight that still lingered from dinner the night before, Anna sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched. Helen hadn't come down yet. Michael had left early for a site meeting, pressing a quick kiss to Anna's temple before saying, with that tired tenderness in his voice, I love you. I know last night was hard. Anna didn't cry. Not then. She just nodded. But now, with the house still and the walls carrying the echoes of things said too late, she opened her journal and began to write. Not to Helen. To herself. You did not imagine it. You did not overreact. You did not disrespect anyone by speaking the truth in a room that always expected you to be smaller for the sake of peace. You didn't want a war. You just wanted someone to acknowledge that love is not love when it makes you feel like a guest in your own home. You are not broken because you finally spoke. You are healing. Even if no one claps. Even if no one apologizes. Even if the air remains heavy. You are still healing. She closed the notebook gently and stared out the window, watching a bird land on the fence. Feathers puffed in the early chill. Then came the sound of slow steps down the stairs. Helen appeared in the doorway, robe wrapped tightly around her, eyes tired but calm. Anna braced herself. But Helen didn't speak. She just walked to the kettle, filled it, and turned it on. Then, quietly, she opened the cupboard and pulled down Anna's mug. Not her own. Not one of the old floral ones. Anna's. She placed it on the counter without a word. Then, as the water began to boil, Helen finally said, You were right. Anna turned. Helen didn't look at her. Her hands were steady, but her voice was thin. I thought I was being helpful, but I wasn't listening. And I don't want you to dread dinner in your own house. Anna didn't know what to say. Not yet. So she didn't. Helen poured the hot water into the mug, added a green tea bag, and gently pushed it across the counter toward her. Then, without waiting for thanks, she turned and left. Anna stared at the mug. Steam curled upward. The smallest gesture. But it said everything the apology didn't. And when Anna finally lifted it to her lips, she realized something. Not every reconciliation comes with a speech. Sometimes it comes in quiet actions. In the words someone chooses not to say, because they're finally learning how to show instead. Chapter 18. The letter I found on her nightstand. It happened by accident. Helen had asked Anna to help her look for a missing receipt, something about a warranty on the air purifier upstairs. She'd been unusually forgetful lately, muttering about too many papers and should have gone digital, so Anna offered to help. She wasn't snooping. She was sorting through a stack of folders beside Helen's nightstand, careful to keep everything in order, when a small cream envelope slipped loose between two binders. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't hidden. It was simply there. Anna hesitated. On the front, in Helen's unmistakable handwriting, it read, "If something ever happens to me," no name, no date, no stamp. She paused, fingers resting on the flap. Then slowly, she unfolded it. Not out of curiosity, but because something inside her said, "This is meant for you. If something ever happens to me, I want Lucy to remember that I loved her with my whole heart, that I sometimes showed it clumsily, sharply, but always fully. I want Michael to know that I was proud of the man he became, even when I had trouble letting go of the boy. And I want you, Anna, to know this. You made me rethink what strength looks like. I used to think strength was about control, about holding everything together, about never being questioned. But then I watched you, choosing your words, swallowing your pain, stepping forward with grace when it would have been easier to walk away. You could have made me the villain, but instead, you made room. You are kinder than I ever learned to be. You are braver than I ever allowed myself to be. And your family. Not because you married my son, not because you gave birth to Lucy, but because you stayed, and because you kept trying. If I am ever not here to say it, thank you. I see you. And I am so grateful you didn't give up on me. Helen. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, the letter trembling slightly in her hands. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't grand. But it was everything she had once needed and had now received, not because she demanded it, but because the space between them had finally softened enough to hold truth. She folded the letter and placed it gently back where she found it. But its words stayed with her, echoing not in her ears, but in her bones. That night, at dinner, Helen passed Anna the rice first. Anna looked up. Their eyes met. Helen didn't smile. She nodded. And Anna understood. They were no longer measuring respect by tradition or silence. They were choosing each other, day by day, in acts that were no longer quiet because they were suppressed, but quiet because they were sure. Chapter 19. The afternoon we argued, and it didn't break anything. The laundry had piled up again, towels, Lucy's leggings, a stray sock or two under the couch. Saturday afternoon sunlight spilled through the windows as Helen folded clothes at the dining table while Anna vacuumed the hallway, earbuds in, humming softly to herself. It started with something small. It always did. Helen raised her voice a little over the noise of the vacuum. Anna, you forgot to separate the darks again. The black shirt bled into Michael's white undershirt. Anna turned off the vacuum and pulled out one earbud. What? I said. Michael's shirt got stained. You need to sort the laundry better. Anna's shoulders tensed. She took a slow breath. I did sort it. Lucy must have tossed that in when she was helping me. Helen huffed. Not a full sigh. Just that little sound of disapproval she'd perfected over years. Well, you should double-check. It's not that hard. And there it was. That edge. That tone. That old version of their dynamic. Reaching for the familiar script. But this time, Anna didn't bite her tongue. She stepped forward, arms crossed, and replied, not angry, but firm. You're allowed to be annoyed. But I need you to stop turning every mistake into a comment about how I run this house. Helen blinked. I didn't mean. You didn't mean to, I know. But you did. Helen stood straight now too. No longer defensive, just honest. I've run a household my whole life. It's hard to sit back and not say something when I see things that could be better. Anna softened. I understand. But I need to feel like I'm not being evaluated all the time. I'm not your employee. I'm your daughter-in-law. I'm a mother, too. Helen hesitated, then said, You're right. Anna blinked. Helen sat down slowly, folding a towel with more care than usual. It's hard for me to not be in control, to not be needed in the way I used to be. Anna sat down too, across from her. The room went quiet. Then Anna said, You are needed. Just not for criticism. For guidance, support, trust. Helen gave a tiny, almost embarrassed smile. That's a different kind of work. One I'm still learning. Anna returned the smile. Me too. They didn't hug. They didn't hold hands. But they folded towels side by side, arguing gently about whether to fold the fitted sheets into squares or roll them, a new kind of disagreement, safe and soft and unscary. Because now, they could argue without fear that it would break something. The foundation was stronger, built not from perfection, but from practice. Later, as Anna carried the folded sheets upstairs, she glanced back and said, "Thanks for telling me the shirt stained. I'll rewash it with vinegar." Helen nodded. Good idea. No tension. No aftermath. Just two women, learning the choreography of a shared home, one imperfect step at a time. Chapter 20. The morning she called me her daughter in front of a stranger. The smell of banh mi and fresh cilantro filled the air. Anna stood by the register of the Vietnamese deli off Story Road, scrolling through her phone while Helen chatted animatedly with the woman behind the counter, a sharp-eyed older lady who seemed to know everyone by name. They were picking up breakfast for the weekend, Helen's idea. Just the two of them. Michael was home with Lucy, and for once, Anna hadn't hesitated when Helen asked, "You want to come with me? The lines get long if we wait too late." She had said yes before even thinking, not because she felt obligated, because she wanted to. They stood side by side now, both in light jackets, hair pulled back. The cashier leaned over the glass counter, laughing about something Helen said. Then, as she began to pack their order, she looked at Anna and asked, "Your daughter?" Anna blinked. Before she could answer, before she could even feel the awkward pause building in her throat, Helen replied, without missing a beat. "Yes, my daughter-in-law. But she's like a daughter to me." The cashier smiled wide. "You're lucky. Not all moms-in-law say that out loud." Helen chuckled. "Anna?" Anna stood completely still, not because she was shocked, but because something warm and unexpected bloomed quietly inside her. Helen hadn't looked at her when she said it. She didn't wink or soften the words with a sideways glance. She just said it. Like it was true. Like it had always been true. And in that moment, Anna realized she didn't need to wait for validation anymore. Because this was real. In the car on the way home, Helen sipped her iced coffee, the bag of banh mi resting on her lap. "You okay?" she asked, glancing sideways. Anna smiled, her voice calm. "Yeah, that just caught me off guard." Helen shrugged lightly, eyes on the road. "Well, you're part of the family. Might as well say it." Anna turned to the window and smiled wider. That morning, they ate together around the kitchen table with Michael and Lucy, the sound of paper sandwich wrappers rustling and children's laughter filling the air. No speeches, no tension, just a quiet kind of closeness. And for the rest of the day, every time Helen said "pass the sauce" or "don't forget your umbrella," Anna heard something else underneath. You belong here. You are not just in this house. You're mine, too. Chapter 21. Lucy's drawing, 1 year later. It was tucked in her preschool folder, among alphabet practice sheets, a bent construction paper crown, and a glittery certificate that read "Best Helper." Anna pulled the folder out of Lucy's cubby after school, scanning quickly as her daughter skipped ahead, humming some song she'd made up on the spot. Then she saw it. A drawing, crayon on thick white paper, 4 figures. No sun, no grass, just people, standing close together, smiling. She recognized them instantly. Michael with his rectangle glasses. Lucy in the middle, as usual, arms outstretched. Anna, slightly taller this time, drawn in a soft pink dress. And next to her, holding her hand, was Helen. No window, no distance, just together. In blocky, slightly misspelled letters at the top. "My family who love each other lots." Anna stared at the picture for a long time. Not because it shocked her, but because it didn't. A year ago, this would have been unimaginable. A year ago, Helen was a figure in the corner of Lucy's drawings, outside the house, behind the glass. Watching, but not in it. Now she was centered. Now she was held. Not just by Lucy, but by something deeper, a new rhythm. A home not measured by roles, but by relationships rebuilt slowly. Day by day, in quiet meals, in folded towels, in unexpected laughter, and in shared mornings at the deli. That night, Anna showed the picture to Helen. She placed it in front of her without a word. Helen looked at it, blinking slowly. Then, "I have a round face in this." Anna chuckled. "She draws what she sees." Helen stared for a moment longer, then whispered, "She sees love." Anna nodded. "She does." Helen picked up the drawing, moved to the fridge, and pinned it there with the sunflower magnet, the same one that had once held Lucy's first family picture. The one where Helen had been outside the frame. Now she was in the middle, right where she belonged. Anna stepped back, arms folded. Helen looked over her shoulder. "She draws better than I ever did." Anna smiled. "She draws honestly. And that's better than perfect." And as the magnet clicked softly into place, sealing this new chapter onto the heart of their home, they both stood quietly for a moment, watching a child's truth become the truest picture of all. Chapter 22. The birthday cake she baked without asking. Anna woke up to the smell of vanilla and something sweet toasting faintly at the edges, not quite burned, but on the edge of caramel. It was her birthday. She hadn't mentioned it much. Michael had asked a few days earlier if she wanted to go out for dinner, and she had shrugged, saying maybe a quiet night at home would be better. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind, school meetings, deadlines, Lucy's runny nose that never seemed to end. She hadn't expected anything special. Certainly not this. She walked into the kitchen, still in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes. And there she was. Helen, standing at the counter in her flowered apron, oven mitts tossed beside a cooling rack. A cake sitting in the center, imperfect, a little lopsided, but unmistakably homemade. Vanilla sponge. Light pink frosting. Sliced strawberries on top. Anna blinked. Helen turned around. "Happy birthday." Anna opened her mouth, then closed it again. "You baked." Helen gave a small shrug, like it was nothing. Like she hadn't avoided baking for years, because I never had the touch for sweets. It's not fancy. I followed a recipe from YouTube. That woman with the British accent, she makes everything sound easier than it is. Anna stepped closer, eyes on the cake. Helen continued, quieter now. "You've done a lot this year. For Lucy. For Michael. For this house." A pause. "I just wanted to make something for you. Without you asking." Anna touched the edge of the counter, grounding herself. "Thank you." Helen looked at her. The soft lines around her mouth lifted, a smile both proud and nervous. "I know it's not perfect. It tilts a bit." Anna looked her in the eyes and said, "It's perfect." Later that evening, after Michael got home with flowers and Lucy sang a very off-key version of Happy Birthday, the four of them sat around the table and ate the cake together. Crumbs fell. Frosting smudged Lucy's cheeks. Helen insisted it was too sweet. Michael said it needed more strawberries. Lucy just asked for a second slice. And Anna? Anna didn't say much. She didn't have to. Because sitting there, between her daughter's laughter and her husband's hand resting on hers, she felt it. This wasn't just a cake. This was a gesture made freely, without pressure, without instruction. It was a thank you. It was an apology. It was a celebration, not of her birthday, but of everything they'd built together, one quiet act at a time. When the last crumbs were cleared and the plates stacked in the sink, Helen touched Anna's elbow lightly and said, "Next year, I'll try chocolate." Anna laughed. "As long as you're baking." "I'll eat anything." Helen didn't reply, but her eyes said enough. And this time, Anna believed it. Chapter 23. The day she took my side without hesitating. It happened at the grocery store. A small moment, really. Blink and you'd miss it. But Anna didn't miss it, because she had waited years for a moment like this, when someone in the family didn't make her defend herself. When someone just had her back. It was a regular Sunday outing. Michael had stayed home with Lucy, and Helen had offered to go with Anna to pick up ingredients for the week, a simple errand that had become their shared ritual. They were standing in the produce aisle at the Vietnamese market, a place where everyone somehow knew everyone, and unsolicited advice from aunties came with the scent of fresh herbs and fish sauce. Anna was picking out choy sum when a voice behind her called. "Anna? Troy, I almost didn't recognize you." It was Auntie Lynn, a distant cousin on Michael's dad's side. The kind who popped up every holiday with loaded compliments and gossip disguised as concern. Anna smiled politely. "Hi, Auntie. You're looking tired. Still working full-time? Isn't your daughter only 4? Before Anna could reply, Auntie Lynn leaned in conspiratorially. "In my day, women stayed home. Took care of the house. Maybe that's why the younger generation's marriages don't last long, huh?" Anna froze. Her chest tightened. And before she could find the words, the polite smile, the deflection, the breath to swallow it down, Helen stepped forward. "Well, in your day, women didn't have the choice. Anna does. And she does it well." Auntie Lynn blinked. Helen kept going, calm but clear. "She works, she raises Lucy, and she runs that house better than I ever did." Anna's mouth parted slightly. Auntie Lynn chuckled awkwardly. I was just joking." "Then maybe stop." It wasn't said cruelly. It was said like a shield. A boundary, drawn not in conflict, but in care. Auntie Lynn mumbled something about picking out durian and disappeared into the next aisle. Anna turned to Helen, stunned. "You didn't have to do that." Helen looked her dead in the eye. "Yes, I did. And that was it. No apology. No ceremony. Just a simple truth. Someone had stood beside her. No hesitation. No neutrality. And it was Helen." On the drive home, Anna stared out the window, quiet. Helen didn't press. But before they pulled into the driveway, Anna whispered, "Thank you, Mom." Helen's hands stayed on the wheel, but her voice was warm. "You never have to face them alone again. Not while I'm around." And Anna? She believed her. Chapter 24. The night we sat in the kitchen and didn't need to talk. It was just after 9 p.m. The dishes were done. Lucy had finally fallen asleep after insisting she needed to say good night to her dinosaur stickers one by one. Michael was upstairs finishing emails. The quiet hum of his laptop a gentle reminder that the house was settling down. Anna came downstairs in her slippers, hair tied up loosely, sweater sleeves pulled over her hands. She wasn't looking for anything, just a moment, a breath. And there, in the kitchen, was Helen, already sitting at the table. 2 mugs of tea. One for her. One already waiting. Anna paused in the doorway. "You made tea?" Helen nodded. "Chamomile. No sugar." Anna walked over slowly and sat across from her. No TV. No phone. No agenda. Just the soft tick of the wall clock and the faint scent of mint from a nearby candle Lucy had insisted on lighting before bed. They sat in silence. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't heavy. It was familiar in the best way. Helen sipped her tea. Anna cradled hers in both hands, breathing in the warmth. And somewhere between sip 3 and 4, Helen said, almost to herself, "This feels nice." Anna nodded. "It does." No one filled the space with more. No one tried to fix anything, reflect, or dig up old pain. There were no lessons. No confessions. Just presence. 2 women who had once stood on opposite sides of every decision, now simply sat together. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because they no longer needed words to prove anything. At one point, Helen reached over and nudged the plate of almond biscuits closer. Anna took one. They shared a small smile. Later, as they turned off the kitchen light and headed to bed, separate rooms, but no longer separate hearts, Helen said softly, "Let's do this again." Anna paused at the stairs. "Tea?" Helen looked at her. Silence. Anna smiled. "Anytime." And she meant it. Because after years of walking on eggshells, silence was no longer a threat between them. It had become a gift. Chapter 25. The morning she said, "This is your home too." It was a quiet Sunday. The kind of morning that didn't announce itself, no alarms, no plans, just the soft presence of enough. Anna stood by the kitchen window, sipping her coffee. The early light spilled across the countertop, catching the steam rising from her mug. The birds outside chirped low and rhythmic, a soundtrack of simple continuity. She didn't know why she wandered into the guest room that morning. Maybe it was out of habit. Maybe she was looking for the sewing kit Lucy had misplaced. Maybe she just wanted to see if the sheets needed changing. But when she opened the door, she stopped. Because sitting neatly on the bed was a set of keys, with a note, written in Helen's hand. For Anna, I realized I've been holding on to this house like it was my identity. Like if I let anyone else touch it, I would disappear. Asterisk, but you didn't come to erase me. You came to build something new next to me. These are not just keys. They're a way of saying, this isn't just where you stay. This is your home too. Love, Helen. Anna sat down on the edge of the bed, letter in one hand, keys in the other. No tears came at first. Just stillness. The deep kind that settles after a storm has passed and you're finally safe enough to exhale. Because in those words, plain, honest, written in slightly shaky script, Helen had named something sacred. Belonging. Not by marriage. Not by duty. But by choice. Later that morning, as Michael poured orange juice and Lucy tried to pour her own cereal and missed, Helen stepped into the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She glanced at Anna and said, like it was the most natural thing in the world, "You should choose the color for the new living room curtains." Anna blinked. "You sure?" Helen shrugged lightly. "It's your home too." There it was. The words. Spoken this time. Anna smiled. A quiet, real, grounding smile. Okay. Something light. But nothing too floral. Helen laughed. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. And just like that, the final wall between them, invisible, emotional, years old, disappeared. Replaced by shared air. Shared decisions. Shared life. That afternoon, Lucy brought home a drawing. For people. A house. And above it, in clear, blocky letters, our home. This time, no one stood outside the window. No one was alone. And Anna? She didn't just see her family in it. She saw herself. Rooted. Real. And finally, home.